Hello everyone, and welcome to the national award-winning show Connecting with Kim here on Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network. I'm your host, Kim Droege. Thank you for joining us today. And I want you to like, follow our Instagram, our Facebook, and our X account so you'll have the latest information on the show, the guests, and of course my on-air wardrobe from the Spring boutique located at the corner of Swann and Henderson, and we'll talk more about that later in the show. Also, you can catch the audio of our show on Sun Radio 96.3 FM and on your favorite streaming platform Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 3:30 in the afternoon. We started as a radio show, now we're a cable TV show, so virtually you can watch Connecting with Kim 7 days a week. So I'm so excited because we have a great show coming your way today. He's been with me in the past on the radio show, but this is the first time we've done Connecting with Kim here on TBAE, and I'm thrilled to have him in the chair, and he is our Hillsborough County Sheriff, Mr. Chad Chronister. Welcome, Chad.
Thank you for having me. Hey, this is very special to be here. Now that you're award-winning, you know, now I have to be the one that feels honored to be sitting here talking with you.
It's always an honor to have you and talk with you. I'm just so thrilled that you can make time for today. And I, as I told you before we started, I prayed and prayed for the last week. Please don't let anything super bad happen in Tampa, because I know that that's where you'll need to be and that's where you will be. So thank you for joining us today. It really means a lot.
I'm glad it worked out. You know, the county's growing. It's not shrinking. Our calls for service are up 31,000 calls for service a month over this year, over last year. So, you know, this county's grown. So it is busy, but I'm happy with the direction, the safety and security and the crime reductions that we're sustaining as we're moving forward. So I sit here happy to be here and a happy guy in general.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. So we always do the same thing on the Connecting with Kim show. We always like to give our guests at the top of the show an opportunity to share their life journey as much as they feel comfortable with. And that usually brings us to the topic we're here to talk about today. So take it away, and just because there's lots, and like you said, we have grown a lot in Hillsborough County, and there may be, I don't know how it could possibly be because you have a tremendous social media presence, but there may be people out there who is Chad Chronister?
You know, the question I get the most is, why did you want to be a police officer? You know, February will be 32 years, and I'll tell the stories with as much brevity as I can. But when I was 1 year old, my mom was in the hospital having my sister, and my dad was watching me. He was in the bathtub. You remember, well, it still holds true today. You bolt a toilet onto the floor, and you know the caps that cover the bolts. Well, in my infinite wisdom at 1 year old, I thought that I should put that in my mouth with the round side up. So my dad saw me choking and would move it enough for me to get breath, but I was in, you know, dire need of air. We lived in a duplex. The resident next door, our neighbors, he was a police officer. Oh, so there was no 911 system. So they call him at the station. He happens to be close by. He runs home and grabs me, puts me in the car, and is rushing me to the emergency room, while my dad has me upside down trying to move it as much as he could just so I could sustain life.
Right.
I go in, there was a doctor there that couldn't get it either, and they're getting ready to do a whole tracheotomy and do the whole procedure. Some intern said, hold on 1 second, turned me upside down, grabbed some type of forceps, grabbed it and pulled it out and saved my life. Well, I always knew that police officer saved my life, and that story was told to me throughout my whole life. That compounded with the fact of having a World War II Marine sergeant who raised me. My father ended up raising, or my grandfather ended up raising me. I knew I wanted to do something in public service. I didn't know about serving the country. Was it a first responder? Was it law enforcement? But I was always attracted to law enforcement. Like I hated people who bullied other people. I hated people who always took advantage. And I said, I'm going to be that person who says, you know, you're not going to bully this person. You're not going to take advantage of it. And I want to be a part of that fight. I want to make sure that doesn't happen to somebody. So that's my story. So I go to school for 2 years. I come down here. I had had enough of school and got hired by the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office a short time later while I was still in school. And again, that was 32 years ago. So I've been with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. A lot of people are like, have you worked for other agencies? Have you ever worked for anyone else? No, I grew up here. I went to the police academy here. I started here 32 years ago and worked various components around the office and continued to get promoted, which I loved. It wasn't just the pay. I loved the every time I got elevated, it was a greater platform.
Right.
And I always saw it as an opportunity to be able to influence greater change with the larger the platform that I was given. And again, when I was appointed by Governor Scott in 2017 and then elected twice by the residents here, I couldn't feel more privileged, more honored to serve this community. I still love it today as much as I did the first day and every subsequent day. I remember my first car, and it was a real doozy. It caught fire and everything else, but I didn't care. You know, it was a police car, and I washed it every day before every shift. I washed the decals off the car. I had to replace the decals on this 7-year-old car, and I love it just as much today as I did back then.
Well, I think two things. People look at you and they say, there's no way this guy could have been in Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office for 32 years. And the other thing is that I remember, and I still have pictures of when you were appointed by Governor Scott in 2017, you came to this Sun City Center, as it was known then, Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
And I have a picture of you and my mom and me, and you were brand new on the job.
Yeah, brand new. Talking to individuals like yourself, okay, because everyone, change is tough. And it's like, okay, Sheriff G did an amazing job.
He was well loved.
Yeah, what are you going to do different? What are you going to do better? So back then, I would meet with everyone I could just because I had a vision. Yes, I want to be tough on crime. Everybody wants to be tough on crime, but I wanted to be different. I wanted to be smart on crime. I knew we weren't doing enough to be proactive to prevent people from ending up being, whether it's mental health crisis. Back in 2017, I told everyone our biggest obstacle that we face as a society, as a community, is mental health, and we weren't doing enough for it, internally and externally. And I knew that's where we had to change. We had to be more proactive out in the front lines, having mental health clinicians that are now with our plainclothes deputies, trying to act as that facilitator and get these individuals the help they need before they go into crisis, before they become violent and turn violent towards themselves, their loved ones, the community, law enforcement. So a lot of it is being proactive. Our veterans. We have more veterans here in Hillsborough County than anywhere else in the country.
That's right.
Are settled right here. Why aren't we being proactive, going out, getting them their benefits? Sometimes maybe it's rehabilitation as far as some type of substance abuse. Maybe it's mental health. Maybe it's just their VA benefits. Maybe it's a driver's license. Maybe it's a ticket home. Maybe they're homeless and it's helping them get some type of housing developed. So I knew we wanted to be smart on crime. I wanted to create some diversion programs, keep children out of the criminal justice system. I hated the fact that I made a mistake, and I was more afraid of my grandfather, like your mother.
Yeah,
you're more afraid of.
I'm more afraid of my mother than anybody.
Than any law enforcement officer.
Yeah.
But I knew back then, as the family unit eroded, I knew we needed to do more. There had to be other diversion programs. Same thing with adults that make a simple mistake, low-level non-violent misdemeanor. Let's get them diverted so they're not losing their family income. They lost their job. I'm not standing there pounding my chest saying, hey, as your sheriff, I'm keeping our community safe. So there was a lot of diversion programs, a lot of proactive programs on the front end, trying to keep people out of the criminal justice system. So very proud of that, along with the community outreach and what we do in community outreach. I know I see you at a lot of events. You're very active in this community, you and your 95-year-old mother. And you see us out there because I feel it's important. You have to be a part of the fabric of the community. With 4,000 employees, you have to be out there. And every portion of this community, every nook and cranny is different. So the needs are different. And how do you understand what the needs are unless you're out in the community? So
you can't, because you have to be talking to them. You have to be, people say, you go to a lot of events. I'm like, yes, I do. But, people invite me to things. There are things that I personally want to support. And I go out there in the community because I want to know what they are thinking and feeling. And, like Tea and Conversation. I go to Tea and Conversation on a regular basis because I want to know what that community is thinking and feeling. And I can't decide what to focus on myself for the show if I don't know what's going on. And you're out there all the time.
You have to know. It's critical. Almost like we were talking about social media. Whether you hate it or you like it, that's the way our society communicates.
That's right.
So we have a large presence, good, bad, and if it has to do with our employee or someone in the community, it's going out. And as you build that relationship, the most important thing that comes out of that is trust. If this community doesn't support and have the faith and trust in us as a law enforcement agency, we're not going to be effective regardless of what we do. So you have to have this large presence. Another, I should say, a priority that I had was the diversity at the agency. You know, instead of it being in the low teens, over the last 6 years, I've worked very hard as the sheriff to have a workforce that reflects the community that you serve. Whether it's African American, whether it's who you love, what God you worship, male, female. Our diversity right now is at 61% from the top all the way to the bottom.
Oh my gosh, you should be very proud of that.
Extremely proud.
I didn't know that.
So when you
I
talk
follow
about,
you all the time on social media.
So when you talk about factors, if you had to pick top 5 of what makes you effective as a law enforcement agency, the diversity will always be our greatest strength.
Well, I think also as I look back on, your tenure thus far as sheriff, and I certainly hope it continues, I look back at all of the initiatives and the partnerships that you formed, because the partnerships are important. I mean, you're active in the domestic violence arena with the people that are, all the organizations that are working in that area. You're active with Veterans Treatment Court, which I just had the pleasure of attending, and Judge Shanti's going to be on the show coming up.
Good.
Many other efforts that you have, programs that you've initiated in the community that I think are making a fundamental difference.
I think between the philanthropic efforts and the partnerships, that's what makes Tampa Bay so special. It's because we have a community filled with individuals that truly care. Partnerships are absolutely essential if you're going to be successful. So if it's in the domestic area realm, if it's in the mental health realm, whether it's in human trafficking, and the list we could sit here and talk, you have to share those partnerships. Human trafficking, a big priority of ours. We have a squad of detectives dedicated to making sure our young people are safe, whether it's hotel, motels, internet predator, the adult entertainment industry, and the list goes on and on. 365 days a year, they're making sure that the youth and females and young men in this community are safe from human traffickers, because it's become so profitable, and it's hard to prosecute because they govern with fear.
Yeah.
You know, these women, they threaten violence to not just them, and they're not just abuse there and the addiction, everything that goes along with that. They threaten their families.
Right.
So it's hard to get them to testify against these individuals. It's hard for them to say, hey, I have the courage and I'm going to get out of this cycle of being abused with human trafficking and being trafficked. No one chooses this type of life. But when you team up with Sail of Freedom, Bridging the Gap, and all these... No More.
Our friend Dottie Groover Skipper.
Right. No More. Absolutely phenomenal. And she's incredible with what the work that she does, created. And all these different organizations that are helping. These females come in and talk to these suspects at the time that we have, but they're truly victims, and get them to break this cycle. I mean, we've so far have rescued the last 2 years 27 females. 27 females that I don't think we would have rescued when we were ineffective trying this without these partnerships. So you bring up partnerships, absolutely essential to being successful in what we do.
Well, and also being Tampa and having the amount of events that we do in our community. And these events, what most people don't understand, yes, these concerts and these other events that we have, which draw a lot of attention to our community, which bring in a lot of dollars to our community, they also are opportunities for this activity and these predators to make a living.
And they did, and that's exactly what I saw. I saw 6 years ago when I became the sheriff, the Super Bowl was in Atlanta, and I saw 250, 60 arrests. And say it was 260, don't hold me to the number, 255 out of them were there to have sex with a young child. And I'm like, I knew that it was Miami and then we were coming up, that we had to be more proactive. Well, once we got done with all our events, it was the Super Bowl, the National Championship, WrestleMania, I said, what? Let's do another human trafficking sting operation and see what the appetite is. What was the same success as the other one, and that's when I knew we had to create a specialty squad, that this wasn't just because of big events, that just brings more of an appetite, that we had to make this a priority all year round.
So as you look back, I mean, we can look back on your entire tenure so far, but let's just, restrict it to maybe like the last 18 months or 2023. What do you feel are the most significant things that you and the department, because we can never forget that behind you is an entire team and cadre of people who are out there working and putting themselves on the line every single day to keep our community safe. So what do you think is the most significant that you'd like to talk about?
4,000 of us.
Yeah.
We want to talk about dedicated individuals that can make a lot more money going to do something else. Absolutely amazing from civilian and the sworn side. I mean, they're just absolutely incredible. I talk about every day I'm reminded how proud I am. I'm always, every day I get a daily or an email, an update of what they have done in the office. But it's hard to pin down. I would say our community outreach efforts have expanded. We give more money to charities. We put on more charitable efforts than we ever have. Being proactive with our preventative and proactive endeavors, whether it's our Veterans Initiative, the Homeless Initiative, our Mental Health Behavior Unit, that what we're doing on the front end. And then you come into, if you don't get through our diversion programs, you come into our jail. That's where I think we've made a lot of progress. We're just housing inmates, and you see that around the state, and I just didn't want to house inmates. You come in, you play cards, dominoes, share stories, and you leave, and then we scratch our heads as a society, as a law enforcement partner, and say, why is this person back again? I knew if we were going to truly combat recidivism and reduce it, we were going to have to be more proactive. We were going to have to take put forth some larger efforts. So we have over 350 educational programs. We have the only state-certified drug rehabilitation unit in a detention facility right here in Hillsborough County. So I think it's important to take this holistic approach. If you find yourself in one of our detention facilities, the first thing we're going to do is get you healthy. Whether it's mental health or whether it's substance abuse, and sometimes it's coupled together.
Right.
So we work hard to get you healthy. While you're doing that, we're going to educate you with one of the 350 programs, how to balance a checkbook, maybe be a better parent. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And then where we've made our greatest stride is our vocational trade center, providing you with a skill set so you don't go back to the original pattern of criminal behavior that you face because you don't think there's another way of life. Society now believes that there's second chances, sometimes third chances. Why not take advantage of that with this workforce shortage that we face and educate and provide them with the skill set, whether it's basic welding, whether it's plumbing and pipe fitting, automotive maintenance. They take the same ASC certifications that an automotive mechanic does. 350,000 mechanics short in this country. When's the last time you had to get a car repair done? You see how successful they could be. So they take those tests. Those tests aren't easy. So they get the instruction, take the test, and when they get out, they have a gainful job, a gainful employment. We help them interview. We have auto dealerships here that will take every single person here.
Right.
So our veterans programs that we have, that teach our veterans and allow them to get the respite care that they need. They sit there and go through group therapy. We have people come in and teach them. Again, there are all these programs available to them. We forklift operator, because of all the warehouses here in Tampa. I just broke ground on the new center. It's carpentry and it's stucco and it's electrical contracting. The trade unions believe in second chances. They go out, work in the field for 3 weeks out of the month. And then 1 week out of the month, they go in and their union dues pay for them. In 4 years, they're fully certified, plumber, pipe fitter. So talk about gainful employment.
Right.
Talk about a second opportunity. And here's the great news, Kim. These programs that I talk about, and I love to talk about because I see the impact that they're making, the recidivism rate is less than 10%. So of every individual, 100 individuals that graduate one of these programs, the recidivism rate, has shown us over the past 2 years, only 10 of them come back.
Well, recidivism is kind of like when you're building your house or renovating your house. Rework. I always tell everybody, rework is a cost, okay? It's a direct impact to your profit if you have to rework. It's the same with recidivism. If you don't, after these people have paid their debt to society, which I believe that, when they have paid their debt to society, they should be able to start again. If you don't have them healthy, gainfully employed, and something to look forward to, well, what are they going to do? They're going to go right back to what they were doing before.
Reoffending, come back.
Reoffending and coming right back into the system, which costs us a lot of money. I'd rather they're out there like you. I'd rather they're out there employed and paying taxes, right? That's what I like.
They are. They're becoming a contributing member of society.
Exactly.
And right here in our Tampa Bay community, they're staying here. Their families are here, and they want to. They're not bad people.
No.
They made bad decisions.
Maybe
they're unhealthy.
Yeah.
Listen, there are bad people in this community. Don't let me get it wrong. And the men and women of the sheriff's office we have a special place for them in our jail, and luckily they're there to keep our community safe. So if I had to continue the conversation and talk about more what we've done, you see how technology has influenced every aspect of our life. Law enforcement's no different. So we've embraced technology. We've seen that by embracing and partnering with different technological advances, how it's helping our employees. It's helping us prevent crime. It's helping us solve crime. We created a firearms lab. We used to have to wait a year sometimes to know, hey, that crime that was used in a shooting or a homicide, does it come back to somebody? Has it been linked to another crime? Well, a detective is diligent and does a great job being so diligent, but then has to wait a year to get the results back. We have our own crime lab back. Well, now, we created that. We had a great bust a couple months ago of some gang members, a gang organization. The guy was in charge of all the supplying all the guns for the whole state of Florida. And we impounded all those firearms. Within 48 hours, we knew every firearm and where it was going. It was used in a shooting down in the city. And this, I mean, just phenomenal information.
That's amazing.
We're now developing a DNA and a drug lab. So many times they're now, as you see the opioid crisis, and fentanyl's being mixed with everything. It's not just heroin. So we have children that are innocent that try ecstasy for the first time, or try a drug of choice. Just try this, and they overdose. Luckily, a lot of them aren't passing away, but they're overdosing, and they tell their parents it's their first time. Well, a lot of times they're telling the truth. It is their first time. They're in that experimental phase, which all of us would like to see that not happen. But how do we know what that is? Once again, the backlog of drugs could be a year to 18 months. And now we don't know who's responsible. How can we track it back? And now we have no charges, so we're waiting. So it's embracing technology. DNA. God forbid you're that female that gets sexually battered. It could take up a year to 18 months to find out who the suspect is, because it takes a year or almost longer to find out who the DNA comes back to. DNA's our friend. Touch DNA at burglaries, auto thefts, everything else. It's, when I say DNA, all that DNA. We're creating our own lab. We'll have it right here. So there'll never be an obstacle. I tell everybody, please go somewhere else to commit a crime, because you're not going to get away with it here. And lastly, you talked about being effective if we continue to grow. The men and women at the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, when I tell you how proud I am of them, how dedicated they are. When this county commission gives us what we need, and they've been phenomenally supportive, whether it's the equipment, the tools, the resources, the training, and the benefits that we need, we're still hiring. Our academies are full. There's people come from around the country that want to come work for the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. It's because this community supports us. You know, they appreciate us. There's a great partnership that it goes back to. But when we can give those employees what they need, they're coming here because they know they're going to get the best of everything. To keep themselves safe and keep them safe, and not only keep them safe, but keep this community safe. And it's working. Well,
and, you know, and we've experienced tremendous growth in this county, in this Tampa Bay area, and you know, it's a testament, because when you have that kind of explosive growth and people coming from all over the country, it's natural to assume that there's going to be an increase in crime, whether it be theft, burglary, domestic violence, or even murder, and of course drug and gang activity.
You bring up a great point, and you couldn't be more right. Historically, more population, more crime. That's just inherently.
It's usually the way it works.
It's just the numbers are working against you. The sheer volume of numbers. It's not happening here. It's not happening here, and I think it's because of everything that we mentioned, the progress that we made over the past year, the tools, the resources, the training, who we're hiring, how they're supervised, how they're trained, the equipment that they get, how we compensate them, the preventative programs, the proactive programs we have, the rehabilitation programs that we have. Again, this tough on crime, smart on crime approach. All this put together, I'm happy to sit here and tell you that crime's down 7% in Hillsborough County, which is absolutely incredible when you have this population influx that's occurring.
Well, and on top of that, social media, you have a great social media presence, and I think you do a great job of communicating with the community of exactly what's happening right now at the time. But social media, the flip side of that is that no matter what is happening in the community, somebody's capturing it. So if there's a crime being committed, or if there's something going on, somebody's filming it and somebody's posting it. So it's a double-edged sword, and you've got to use it. You absolutely have to use it.
And it's great. I love that criminals post everything. They want that recognition, and it makes our job.
It amazes me.
I could never see. Okay, if I ever could find that ounce of being in any of us that say we're going to go commit a crime, we're going to do something wrong. Why would you video it and put it out there for the world to see? Put it anywhere, knowing that we're going to find it.
Well,
We're
and
gonna
also
find
the
it.
Ring doorbell. I mean, not to give them, they're not the only ones, but just that technology that people are installing in their homes is also helping us, because right there, the video is captured. You have it on your cell phone, and you can give it to anybody you need to, law enforcement, anybody, and say, "Hey, I captured this person."
In law enforcement, technology is our friend. When they
Yeah.
give us access to flock cameras, license plate readers, and the list goes on and on and on, it's phenomenal. It's not us just going. But if Kim says, "Hey, you can tap in, I have a business, and you can look at my cameras," you wouldn't believe what we can get from there and the crimes that we're solved and the expedient manner in which we're solving crimes. We have someone up in the USF area that is breaking into cars and went into one of the liquor stores and was doing it. We can track those cameras back from the apartment complex back to him going to use a fake ID at the liquor store, and within 24 hours this person was under arrest that was breaking in all the cars in this neighborhood.
I remember that because you posted it on social media. Well, we didn't even get to talk about 2024, so you have to come back because we're almost out of time for the show. It goes
I will
so
come back.
fast.
Absolutely will come back.
Okay, good. I love that. Okay, well, thank you for being I forgot midway, so forgive me for that. My guest today on Connecting with Kim has been the Sheriff of Hillsborough County, Mr. Chad Chronister. Thank you so much for being with us today and taking time out of your schedule.
Thanks for having me. Thank you for all your support.
Really appreciate it. So that's all we have time for today. I want to give a shout out to my sponsor, the Spring of Tampa Bay, who provides my on-air wardrobe from the Spring Boutique located at Swann and Henderson here in Tampa. The Spring of Tampa Bay since 1977 has been providing safe spaces and empowering services for survivors of domestic violence and their children. And 2024 will be a big year for them, so we will be talking about them as they continue to grow, consolidate, and expand the services that they are going to offer our community. And we'll have more to say about that. So thank you for joining us today. Come back next week for another edition of Connecting with Kim. And remember, our job every week is to bring you the information you need to live your best life in our corner of paradise. And it really is paradise. So long.